Have you ever seen a couple appear to be living two distinct lives while smiling for the cameras? Harry and Meghan were present at Kevin Costner's Santa Barbara charity event. It was their first time together in public in 5 months, and wow, it showed. The music was overpowered by the loudness of the body language. Harry leaned out as Meghan leaned in. He gave her nothing when she attempted to mimic him. Seeing two performers in the last season of a program they no longer want to be on was more than simply awkward. Indeed, Meghan performed her routine of gazing up at him with affection as if she were portraying the proud wife. But if that was acting, it was poor acting. Worse than her false curtsy in the Netflix doc, worse than Suits. She seemed to be attempting to play human, but the software keeps breaking. Harry, meanwhile, appeared to have just departed the premises. The man appeared to prefer being somewhere else as he gazed into the abyss. Even back in Afghanistan, he was practically wondering, "What have I done?" This is where things start to become really interesting. Together, they made no public appearances for 5 months. That isn't typical of married life. We're not even taking a vacation from intensity like that. That silence is PR, a circumstance when you shouldn't ask inquiries. And then, as if nothing had happened, they appear at a charity event. No, we're content for no apparent reason, so you don't go from radio quiet to staring at us. That was not a resurgence. That was a reaction to a crisis. Because this is the problem. Harry recently returned from a trip to the UK. He was beaming there, grinning, illuminating spaces, and even occupying King Charles's area. But the brightness has vanished back in California. The man appears to be waking up to the reality that his entire freedom in the Montecito dream is a cage, and he gave over the key. He appears dejected, exhausted, and checked out. Additionally, Meghan is still working to promote the brand. This and that are my husbands. However, the entire my husband shtick now seems more like a catchphrase, a drop of a PR microphone. She is out here portraying the loyal wife Meghan Markle. But even when the cameras stop filming, she seems to remain in character. Additionally, Harry is no longer complying. No warmth, no PDA, not even a look that conveys "I still care." Even worse, individuals are beginning to think that marriage is merely a contract rather than a genuine partnership or agreement. It tracks, too, to be honest. Go back to the beginning, when Meghan was telling him that she was the only one who truly knew him and that he was misunderstood and mistreated. The classic playbook of deception. Harry also purchased it. The regal title and hook line. However, that spell is now ending. His expression, posture, and even the way he avoids making eye contact all reveal it. And let's not even talk about the weight increase. It goes beyond simply growing older or getting married. Emotional weight is that. Remorse, despair, and comfort eating. This man was once the most well-liked royal, sometimes even receiving more affection than the Queen. He is currently living under the shadow of a relationship that increasingly appears to be a trap. Harry isn't even suited for this Hollywood game, which is the saddest part. He had no desire for stardom. Peace was what he desired. A farm in Africa, perhaps enjoying a beer with his fellow soldiers. A night of aimless scrolling, perhaps. He has that feel. However, Meghan is pursuing the brand, the limelight, and the next big thing. Harry, however, is simply trapped, caught between the reality he's beginning to realize and the fantasy she's trying to sell. Furthermore, that charity concert wasn't a night out for a date. A PR fire drill, that is. A last-ditch effort to pretend that everything is going well behind the scenes while saying, "We're fine." The unsettling reality is that this relationship might have been doomed from the start. Because love has always been a part of Meghan's life. The move, the positioning, and the long term have always been important. She wasn't merely getting married to a prince from the minute she appeared in the royal portrait. She was transitioning into royalty as if it were a planned change in her profession. Netflix offers power dinners, red carpets, and the Sussex brand. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a blueprint. In the beginning, she did a good job portraying the role. Broad-eyed, modest, and giving. The media desired a contemporary duchess. However, there was strategy hidden beneath that appeal. It was more than just a house at Frogmore Cottage. Before she learned it wasn't large enough, it served as a stepping stone. Not literally, but metaphorically. Catherine possessed the future throne, the larger house, and the larger title. And that hurt more than any tabloid headline for someone like Meghan. It was more than just her residence. It has to do with her ranking. She so dragged Harry away from his brother, the military, the palace, and everything else that made him unique. And she did it in the name of privacy and freedom. However, what was really constructed in California wasn't a sanctuary. It was a stage. Because they continued to pursue the spotlight despite their claims to the contrary. It's always been perfectly planned pandemonium with Netflix, podcasts, public declarations, and strategically placed photo ops. Harry believed he was leaving a life of performing, but the tragic irony is that he ended up in an even worse situation. Meghan's detractors now claim that she is not real. To be honest, they might be correct. Her interviews, attire, and body language all seem to have been practiced. She speaks as though she's seen too many TED lectures and believes that every third sentence should include "my husband" in order to be relatable. Although she presents herself as a helpful wife, she is said to be cold, cunning, and domineering behind the scenes. In contrast, Harry has begun to resemble a guy in free fall. His looks were lifeless, and his stance sagged. Every time he appears in public, it seems like something drains him. Additionally, the cracks are no longer cracks as of late. They are canyons. It's no longer even subtle. He recoils when she reaches for his hand. He nods off when she talks. When he smiles, it's the type of smile you give when you're unable to leave a dinner party because you're being kept captive. They have lost their chemistry. This strange tension that feels like it could collapse at any moment has taken its place, not faded, not worn, gone. It seems like every exchange is staged to appear as affection, yet below there is a sense of emptiness. Experts in body language have also been devouring it. The uneven postures, the forced closeness, and the absence of physical contact all lead to the same conclusion. This is no longer a marriage. A press release is what it is. Why now is the question that everyone is asking. What caused them to abruptly reunite after a 6-month break? Some others think it has something to do with Harry's most recent return to the UK. He might have gained some influence once more from that brief reunion with King Charles, which served as a reminder that he still has royal ancestry. Perhaps Meghan interpreted that as a sign, an opportunity to remind everyone that they are still a brand, united, and strong. However, it backfired, because individuals perceived distance rather than unity. They perceived cold rather than warmth. The pair didn't appear to be in love. It appeared as though two performers were compelled to perform a scenario that they both regretted accepting. It said it all in Harry's face: the loss, the disappointment, and the remorse. For this, he offered up a kingdom. It now appears that the fairy tale was a fabrication as well. The possibility of the marriage disintegrating is not the true sorrow. It's because it was most likely never intended to last in the first place. Harry entered like a man in dire need of help. Meghan also arrived wearing the cape. She witnessed a broken guy, wanting to matter, lost in the royal machine, weeping for his mother. She also gave him something that no one else had ever offered: verification. She portrayed herself as the one who could protect him from the harsh outside world since she saw the true him. Beneath that protective exterior, however, was a person who was fully aware of her role. That was the quintessential love bombing of the early days. Continuous acclaim, admiration in public, and flattery in private. She took on his suffering, turned it into her own, and wrapped it in love. However, the energy changed as soon as she knew his whole commitment, name, status, and escape strategy. He was no longer the project. As a prop, he stood next to her, nodded in accord, and played the role. And now you can sense it whenever they go out. He doesn't appear to be a romantically involved man. He appears to be making an effort to recall why he is still there. His spark has vanished, along with the brash, defiant spirit he once possessed. Meghan, on the other hand, is still promoting the brand, shining, and prepared for the camera. Harry's expression, however, conveys a different message, that of a man who sacrificed everything in search of serenity but was unsuccessful. The fact that Meghan's next action is clearly clear makes it considerably more heartbreaking. She is silently and carefully placing herself. She is preparing for the divorce, which may turn out to be her most profitable chapter yet. Furthermore, this is a pattern rather than conjecture. Meghan knows how to get out. Every exit, from her first marriage to her family to the royal institution, has been planned, managed, and made profitable. She will undoubtedly walk away with a gold mine when this partnership collapses, which it will. A book contract, a documentary series, or perhaps even a streaming special called Meghan, My Story. She is not going to hold back. She will present herself as the misunderstood heroine, the sufferer of a loveless marriage, and the survivor of palace abuse. Additionally, publishers and streaming behemoths will devour it. She will be the talk of the town for a full year, and there will be silence for Harry. Perhaps a few interviews in which he tries to defend himself. He might write a follow-up memoir in a week, but for the most part, he will remain a guy attempting to reconstruct a life that has vanished. He won't return to the UK with ease, not with relationships ruined and bridges burned. He won't be trusted by his brother. His father might put up with him. The public, however, will never stop wondering what became of the prince they once adored. The worst thing is that Harry lost more than simply his family. He lost himself. He is hardly the same person as he was before everything happened: the soldier, the brother, the joker, the young guy who made others grin without trying, and all for what ended up being a sales presentation for a fantasy. What follows? There will probably be a gradual decline, fewer public appearances, more private events, press leaks, and subtle jabs in interviews before the joint statement ultimately makes one of those sterile declarations full of affectionate choices and mutual respect. But years of bitterness, disappointment, and sacrifice lay behind it. Perhaps we all know in our hearts how this ends, which is why it feels so awkward to watch them now. Not with a Hollywood comeback or a royal reconciliation, but with two people discreetly parting ways. One is seeking attention, while the other is looking for a location where he can once more be himself.